Maybe someday this podcast will take off. We'll have our own trading cards and people ask us to sign some stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait for that day.
I said let's get some enthusiasm going here. All right, so welcome to another episode of the Sixth Street Podcast. It is I, Jonathan Keel, and Noe Tamez. Um, Before we start our conversation, I just want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe. We're pretty happy with the amount of interest so far in our podcast. This weekend, I think we were talking before we started recording. Not a lot going on this weekend, but I did have some excitement on my end. I think in one of the previous podcasts, you had in reference to my Transformer collection that I have. One of the things I do is I'm not really a comic book guy, but they came out with this, uh, new comic book with the Transformers. So I thought, well, I'm collecting Transformers. I should collect this comic book. And then when I got the comic book, then I realized it's not just this one series of Transformers. Like it's connected to another one called Void Rivals, which is a whole other, set of comics, but they're connected to the stories, cross back and forth. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll just click that one too because, you know, um, it has Transformers in it as well. But now they
You
got
have to.
GI Joe going on, and all sorts of stuff. They call the whole thing the Energon universe now. And I'm getting really into the 1980s stuff again, and I started actually just going off and watching some YouTube videos. And I remember this toy line called Mask or
I remember
Mask.
that.
Yeah, and I thought, oh, I really wish they had something new. And lo and behold, I'm at the comic book store, and I see they have this new comic book called Energon Universe, and the cover is of this Mask character. I was so excited. And I'm debating, right? Like, do I want to add something else to my collection?
Yeah,
I'm sure you know how that feels, right? You collect stuff, right now?
I do. I collect football cards. Yeah, it it could become a problem.
Yeah, where does it end? Do you have a set of rules? Like, I won't collect um this type of card or this type of sports or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, well, I only collect NFL football cards for the most part. There's so many, so you have to kind of be choosy about what you want to focus in on. So, I don't know, Dallas Cowboys, left-handed quarterbacks. That's another thing I collect since I'm left-handed. And then a little bit of older cards. I kind of prefer the older cards. Yeah.
Nice. I don't think we ever brought it up here, but you've had you do something with these cards, don't you? Like send them off for like some of them to get a signature.
Mm. Yeah, if I can find an address for players. I did this as a kid. When I was a kid is when I first started doing this. You could send cards off to players. If they're active, you send it to the actual team headquarters, and then you ask, hey, like when I was a kid, Mr. Troy Aikman, can you sign this card? And you just send it off. You have no guarantees you're going to get it back. You hope and pray and wait. And then, I got lucky enough to where I got some pretty nice players back when I was a kid, and I restarted it recently as well. Started sending off cards, not to active players, more to older retired players. And I've gotten some back. I've also haven't gotten some back, but I don't know. It's a
Well
lottery.
now,
It's kind of fun.
well now you gotta be honest with me. You gotta be honest. Is your most prized card even a football player, like a real football player? Don't you have one of
Not
a certain actor or something?
Yeah, you know what? And I don't remember his name right now. It's the Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. They actually have it's not even an official football card. It's like some person made a card that, as Uncle Rico throwing a football. It's totally not legit. And I bought it, and I found his address, and he sent it off. And you know what? I think within a couple months, he sent it back. He sent the card back, signed and, with my name and stuff. He sent me like a postcard, and he actually wrote a little note. He was very nice. I'll dig it up and show it sometime.
And he didn't send back a note saying, "Well, thanks for saying this, but it's a little creepy. You found my address."
No, no, because all the addresses, like especially like for them, it's like they have their own office address, right? Because they're still trying to get work and stuff, so it's not their home address.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe someday this podcast will take off. We'll have our own trading cards, and people ask us to sign some stuff
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait for that day.
someday. um, what are we talking about today? The first time I heard about this topic was from you. I think we're talking about being authentic and creating sort of authentic versus AI driven content and
Hmm.
conversations, right?
Yeah, I think a couple months ago, and I wish I had saved the article, and I'll be honest, I did not save it, and so I wasn't the one that caught this, but a couple of months ago, I read an article that was talking about these M dashes in Chat GPT responses. And I think anyone that's in IT, right? One of the things that we're really good at is looking for patterns. We're trained on it. We're always looking for patterns and trends and things within code or logs or whatever. And I read this article and it talked about how, like, what are these M dashes and why are they appearing in so many, Chat GPT responses? And sure enough, I saw the article. I'm on LinkedIn. I see all these people, they're posting, their posts on there, and I could not unsee these M dashes. Like they are everywhere. And not only that, right? But I think we also talked about the typical LinkedIn responses where it's like the overuse of emojis and it's going to be this little paragraph, couple sentences, and then it's got 3 to 5 bullet points with emojis and then a longer paragraph. I mean, it's the same formula over and over and
Hmm.
over again.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that too, and that's another pattern. And what I've noticed, and I'm curious to see if you notice the same thing or if you feel the same way, but now that I see this pattern, the first thing my brain does is I kind of gloss over it. It's like, oh, okay, well, someone just kind of put a prompt in, got a response, maybe proofread it and just slapped it in. And I don't know, it doesn't feel authentic anymore. At first, everyone did it. I'm not saying I never did that. I'm sure I did at some point, but it's just it it's everywhere now. Everyone's
Hmm.
doing it. You're seeing the same thing, and I just kind of like I don't think I put my full attention on it anymore because it's just not authentic. I don't know. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I don't know if I had got to the point that you were at originally, like sort of glossing over it. I mean, I would kind of read like what's the core message here, at least in the beginning. But recently, yes, I've been sort of like there was a post I saw on LinkedIn, and it was like, oh, here's like the top, I forgot new features of Salesforce's latest release, right? And I'm like, well, I've read some of this already, but I'm just curious what this person's pointing out. As soon as I started reading, I started seeing the overuse of emojis. That's what I call it, and then the M dashes. And I thought, oh, well, if this is all this is, I can go ask ChatGPT for this
Hmm.
information too, right? When you start noticing that there's no like human perspective in there, then yeah, I just keep swiping.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah,
because of
it
that.
starts just becoming a blur of the same thing over and over.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw those M dashes, and I'll be honest, right? I saw them and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. I don't know when you're supposed to use this character. I have probably never used it in my life, and I see it everywhere. Everyone's become an expert in M dashes at this point, and it's like, I know I didn't major in English or literature or any of that. I just know I'm never using it because I could not tell you when the proper usage of that character is.
Yeah. Like I swear no one ever used that, but now, like you said, it's everywhere. Everyone's using MDAS. So like that's a big giveaway. Um,
Yeah. And it's going to change, right? People are going to catch on. They're not going to use the M dash, or ChatGPT is going to change their model. In fact, we just saw a post where ChatGPT on LinkedIn, right? They posted that they're in on the joke about the overuse of M dashes. So there's going to be something else. I don't know what it is, but there's going to be some new pattern. I think the bigger thing here is just the authenticity of it. It's like you have to kind of keep a couple things in mind when using AI, whether it's um, for business or if you're posting on LinkedIn. You have to think about what is the relationship with this person and the context of the scenario. So, like for example, I would say, if I'm a nameless customer of a humongous brand and I'm going on a chat bot, yeah, I totally expect that to be AI. I wouldn't expect anything else. And I'm perfectly fine with it because I'm one of a million or tens of millions of customers. It just makes sense. But when I'm talking to someone and there's a built relationship over years, I don't know. It just kind of feels like not like I don't think AI should be the primary response to that type of relationship.
Um, have you ever, so you've gotten emails before or from people that you have a relationship with that has like a very blatantly a very blatant use of AI?
Yeah, yeah, and it customer, number of years, and I remember I got an email, and I already had been trained on this M dash thing, and I saw one of these responses, and it had those dashes in there. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we're using AI to respond via email, which again, right, to be totally clear, I know I've used AI to help me craft an email, but I don't know. I would never just kind of copy paste and just send it off. I'm always going to try to put my own voice, my own perspective in there to kind of set the foundation. So again, I think it goes into the proper usage of AI depending on the relationship, the context, and everything going on there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, I mean, I remember seeing some sort of like way back when people started using ChatGPT, saying, "Oh, it's amazing! It can summarize like emails, right? Like really long emails." And then I saw it was a comic book or like a comic strip, and on one side it was someone saying, "Oh, ChatGPT, take these like 2 or 3 bullet points and make an email out of it," and then send it off, and it has the receiver saying, "I don't have time to read this. Hey, ChatGPT, take this long email and make a summary of like 3 bullets out of this." Like, yeah, I mean,
It's back and
why aren't we
forth
just saying the
AI
three
talking.
bullets?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's just remove the people out of the equation here.
just remove the people out of the equation. Yeah, people are going to start catching on. It's going to start, I don't know, putting a bad taste in people's mouths. Like you said, you and myself too, like scroll through, like let's say LinkedIn, but I don't know. I look for like that authentic,
Hmm.
communication from people. I like again. I don't mind some stuff that's AI driven. I agree. Like it depends where it is and how it's used, but I just there's some overuse going on.
I think people are going to start really yearning for more authentic content. I think they're going to be a little desensitized to all this AI usage. And again, right, if I'm seeing a pattern, I guarantee you other people are going to see a pattern, and it's just going to be a new learned skill going forward. So, let's talk about some of our customers, right? They build B2B storefronts, but it's the relationships behind the scenes that that's what matters, and we're talking about multi-year, probably decade relationships. So I think a lot of people out there, I know AI, it's the new shiny toy. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm pretty excited about where it's going to take things, but I think you really have to lock in on what is my relationship with this particular audience, and make those AI usage decisions based off of that. Um, I, if you want, I saw this article related to my hobby, right? That we are talking about football cards. Um, there's particular football card. It's known as a case hit. It's a very sought after card where if you think about how football cards are sold, they have a case, and then in the case they sell like boxes of cards that you go to Walmart, and a case could have, I don't know, 20 to 40 of these boxes. And there's a card in there known as a downtown card, which is a very expensive, highly sought after. Only one of those downtowns, and it's not guaranteed, but only one downtown in an entire case of cards can be found. So you're going to spend a whole lot of money opening up cards to try to find this one card. And in the early years, it was very sought after because not only because of the scarcity, but the card company would hire artists and they'd take a player in the city and they'd kind of think about the city and they'd draw in and put in images of that city. So, for example, there's a player from Seattle. They're going to have coffee and a grunge plaid shirt and a Seahawk, or they'll have a computer from Microsoft. It's
Yeah.
tailored and they're drawing in these little images, and people spend a lot of money trying to get this card. Well, this past year, the same company, there's a rumor going around that they used AI to generate these images. And one of the cards, and Jonathan, you can put this card up for people to see. It has the football field in the background, and it is not even close to being representative of a full football field. It's just the orientation's wrong, the lines are wrong, the end zone, and it's not a football field. And everyone's like, "What? You know, this is AI. They're not using artists anymore. They're just using AI, and it's very plain. It's very generic. There's no flavor in that card. There's nothing in there about the city. It's just like a random skyline, a weird football field, and kind of it loses a little bit there. You know,
Hmm.
people they notice it, and then it gives them a bad taste in their mouth. And I think that's representative of what we're talking about here with the usage of AI.
I'm not even a huge football follower, but I can tell right away like this does not look like a football field at all. The fact that it went through some sort of, it must not have gone through some sort of like QA process. And I think what you're saying is, what you're saying is, these are such important cards that there's some like TLC involved, right? There's like they're paying attention. They're like trying to put like important information about the city. But yeah, it looks like a generic city. And like and the dead giveaway is the football field's not even like it's really weird. I'm
Yeah,
sure that everyone watching this right now is probably laughing at it.
yeah, it's no longer special. It's just
Yeah,
something that was prompted out.
I like that you brought up the B2B part of this because I always tell our clients that I think they know, but the difference between B2C and B2B is a little bit different. Commerce or any sort of business, right? Like we talk about commerce, but it's like the sales and the service. Commerce is everything all together. It's that's the experience. When you have like a B2C type business, you're just selling products. Like you want to have some sort of brand loyalty and whatever else. But with B2B, it's these relationships you're building, right? People are working with you if you're a manufacturing firm, right, or a distributor. The companies you're working with, they're buying mass amounts of product from you, probably, right? So they want to feel like there's a relationship there. That's why they're buying. Why are they buying from you versus somebody else? Is it just the price? Maybe, but I'm sure there's more to it than that, right? It's because you like doing business with the person. But if you then decide, well, I can save a lot of money by having a bot like communicate to my I'm like a business partner almost, right? Like you're working with them. I think that's gonna put a bad taste in people's mouths. Like, what? I spent all this money with you. You want to talk to me? You're trying to use AI? Um, there's that fear, we do projects too, like, oh, we're having the self-service portals and stuff like that we create. and say, well, you can offload a lot of work to this, and you can have your salespeople focus on other stuff. The fear is always, well, I don't want to lose that connection with people, right? I don't want to lose that relationship that I built. But there's ways to deal with all that, and I'm sure at some point we'll figure out, how to use AI the right way, just like in the current times, people are figuring out how to use technology in the right way, like other
Mhm.
automation. So, but people should start thinking about it now before they alienate a lot of their clients or customers.
Yeah, I think the like that point you brought up about QA, that needs to be, you can't ignore that with AI. And part of that is not only the output of it, but then like just thinking about where, pick and choose where AI works and where maybe it needs to be tweaked a bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like even on B2B, I could still see a world where, yeah, if you're on a B2B site and you go to a chatbot to get some quick service, I think people would appreciate like, yeah, where's my order, that type of stuff, and fully expect that to be AI. But once you need to go a level deeper, that's where you need to really start making sure that your AI usage fits that relationship. When they want to reach out to their account manager, make sure that, again, I think we're all getting help from AI. Just make sure it's just not just AI only. It needs to be a good combination.
Yeah. Otherwise, who is it you're talking to on the other side, right? We talk about um, you know, seeing very similar messages on like LinkedIn, seeing the same sort of tone and writing style on your emails. Um, and it sort of reminds me. So this is like a spoiler. I've never actually seen this movie. I think no, you've seen the movie Her, right?
Hmm.
That's the movie with like Joaquin Phoenix, and I think he starts talking to his, it's like an AI assistant on his phone. And I think, my understanding, he builds a relationship with her. Her name's Samantha, I think.
Hmm.
But so anyone who's not seen it, I just skip ahead or whatever. But I believe the big twist is at the end. The Joaquin Phoenix's character Theodore, he realized that he's not the only person communicating with her. That she's having like loving relationships with multiple people simultaneously, and it's a very hard thing for him to grasp, right? Like um, when I see all this communication like on LinkedIn, I'm not seeing feelings and thoughts from these different people that I'm following. It's like Samantha is coming through in all these different places, right? That's the
Hmm.
Samantha and that's the Samantha and if you had to give a name to it, right? So anyway, I think that's the problem, right? Now it feels like you're not having that communication, that authentic, you know, relationship with a person. Now you're just having it with one AI who's manifested in different areas of your life. And I think people will get tired of it after a while.
Yeah, I think so. And it could be to the detriment of myself. If I start getting used to these patterns, there could be good material in there. It's just, I don't know, when I see it over and over and over again, I just feel like, well, I just don't know how much of this is just AI and how much of it is the person, you know, putting their thoughts into it.
Well, no, that was a great conversation. I'm glad we talked about that, about being authentic, having authentic communication. And it's really important, I think, to build an authentic relationship with people and not to overuse AI. So I guess that's it for today. And thanks everyone for watching. And please like and subscribe. Talk to you all later.
All right. Until next time.